All right, greetings to everyone. Good day, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're watching this recorded video. Welcome back to this recorded video. And for today's video, we will be talking about ICT policies and issues and its implications to teaching and learning. And later on, we'll be discussing, or I will be discussing to you some ICT policies and will be explaining to you their implications to teaching and learning. And I will also explain some issues that is related to ICT policies and of course identify safety concerns on internet, including digital safety rules. All right. So in in our world today, globalization is very prevalent. I mean, globalization is a reality, and ICT has been a fundamental part of the process. In fact, a network society is one in which the entire planet is organized around telecommunicated networks of computers. The powerful use of network has broken boundaries, provided opportunities for inclusion and collaboration. However, there will also be a struggle for those who do not have access or those who are excluded, marginalized, and powerless. Thus, there is a need to establish the policies in the use of ICT in teaching and learning. All right. So, with new technologies that have become central to the lives of everybody, to you, to us, to everyone, whether we are talking on the phone, sending an electronic mail, going to bank, using library, for example, watching news on television, going to the doctor for a dental checkup, for example, catching a flight, or even seeing a movie, you are using ICT. Almost everything that we do in the modern world is influenced by the new technologies. So would your life as a teacher be also influenced by the new technologies? Okay, should we live our lives to be controlled by technologies, or should we control the utilization of technology in our lives? How about it? Okay, so one way of enhancing and regulating the use of ICT is to formulate and implement policies to guide appropriate decisions. That is why for this webinar, for this recorded video, we will be talking about number one, definition of ICT policy. Second would be some issues on ICT and internet policy and regulations. And third would be implication to teaching and learning, specifically for teachers and teaching, and for the learners and learning. All right, to start with ICT, which stands for Information and Communication Technology Policy. Okay, according to Oxford English Dictionary, it has this defined as policy as a course of action adopted and pursued by a government, a party, or a ruler or a statement. Okay, it is actually in any course of action adopted as expedient or advantageous. Okay, its operational definition of policy is a plan of action that is to guide decisions and achieve outcomes. Okay, thus, this what we call ICT policies are needed to put a roadmap or course of actions to be pursued and adopted by various governments, organizations, entities involving ICT. And these includes the principles and guidelines in the use of ICT, which will actually cover three main areas. Namely, we have telecommunications. We have this as like a telephone. Second would be broadcasting for radio and television. And of course, the internet. Okay, there are actually the new ICT technologies. Number one is information technology. It actually includes the use of computers, which has become indispensable in modern societies nowadays, and to process the data and save time and effort. What are needed will be computer hardware and peripherals, the software for the user, and of course, computer literacy. The second one, the second new ICT technology is what we call telecommunication technologies. What is this? This actually includes the telephones with fax and the broadcasting of radio and television using through satellites. Telephone system, we have radio and TV broadcasting are belonging to this category. Okay, and another one, or the last one, is we have networking technologies. The best known of networking technologies is what we call internet, but has extended to mobile phone technology. We have, we call it as voice over internet protocol. We, this is actually a satellite communication and other forms of, it is what we call the other forms of communication, which is which are still in their infancy nowadays, and they're somehow after 5 years or 10 years it will grow and progress. Okay, so in today's era we have internet, and that belongs to the category of mobile phone, the cable, DSL. We have satellite and other broadband connectivity. Okay, so that's for networking technologies. All right. So part of the DICT, or the Department of Information Communication Technology, is the creation of a roadmap for digital startups. Now, the DICT in our country has formulated a roadmap that is to guide all agencies in the utilization, regulation, and enhancement of ICT. Each project has correspondingly policy statements and guidelines. Now, we call it as an ICT for education, or ICT for E. Okay, this program under the DICT supports all the efforts of the education sector, incorporating the use of ICT as well in determining and gaining access to infrastructure. We have hardware, the software, telecommunication facilities, and many others, which are necessary to use and deploy learning technologies at all levels of education. Among the policies are the following. Okay, we have Philippine Roadmap for Digital Startups. That is their plan. Okay, they have internet-related startup ecosystem that is to provide a clear definition of terms, goals, and benchmarks. They wanted to have a patterns of technology startup ecosystem. They also have action planning, and that will enumerate the short and the long-term recommendations for all stakeholders, which means to say that they have this kind of map that is to for a digital startup. Okay, in fact, in what we call ICT for education, okay, this Philippine roadmap for digital startup focusing on the fo- focusing on um the general rule of the general implementation for the DICT, but we have this kind of ICT for education that focuses mainly on the education sector, and benefits are for the stakeholders around. Benefits, the benefits are for the stakeholders of education. Number one, among the policies recommended under the ICT for education is ICT in Education Master Plan for all levels, including a national roadmap for faculty development in ICT in education. That is a national framework plan for ICT in basic education as well. That is why teachers nowadays are subject to different seminars in ICT related seminars and workshops. Okay. Another one is content and application development through the Open Content in Education initiative, which converts Department of Education materials into interactive multimedia content, develop applications used in schools, and conduct students and teachers competitions to promote the development of education-related web content. As far as we know, or as far as we observe, teachers are now transferring the modality from traditional face-to-face to the use of the different ICT tools in the teaching, in the delivery of the instruction. Another one is the FedNet, or the Philippine no, the FedNet, it is actually a walled garden that hosts educational learning and teaching materials and applications for Filipinos by Filipino students, their parents and teachers. In fact, all public high schools will be part of this network with only DepEd approved multimedia applications, materials, and mirrored internet sites accessible from schools' PCs. They have this network that is intended only for their registered personal computers. So that is under the supervision of an under the banner, the supervision of the ICT head of the Department of Education. Okay, the next one is the established community e-learning centers. Usually we call it as e-eskwela for out of school youth, or the OSY. That is to provide the out of school youth with ICT enhanced alternative education opportunities. Since we have youth that is not enrolled formally in an formal education, and we still have other youth who are out of school, so we are extending, I mean, the Department of Education and then the education sector is extending a help to enhance or to orient or to get oriented of the OSY to an ICT enhanced alternative education. Another one is equality program for tertiary education through partnerships with state universities and colleges to improve quality of IT education and the use of ICT in education in the country, particularly outside Metro Manila, Cebu, and the rest of the major cities. Next, we have Digital Media Arts Program to PIA. PIA stands for Philippine Information Agency. Actually, the Digital Media Arts Program, which builds digital media skills for government using open source technologies. Particular beneficiary agencies are the PIA, or the Philippine Information Agency, and the other government media organizations, the Cultural Center for the Philippines, or CCP, the NCCA, or the National Commission for Culture and Arts, and other government arts agencies, SUCs, or the state universities, colleges, and LGUs, or the local government units. Next is an ICT skills strategic plan, which develops an interagency approach to identify the strategic and policy and program recommendations to address the skills demand supply type of requirement. Okay, all these seven programs were guided by the roadmap that embeds the policy statements that relates to education, specifically in the enhancement of human development for teaching and learning. There are some issues in ICT and internet policies and regulations. Number one, this is actually for global issues and global concept or overview. Number one is this access and civil liberties. Access and civil liberties are in two sets of issues in ICT policy, which are crucial to the modern society nowadays. The other concern is civil liberties, which refer to human rights and freedom. Okay, these include the freedom of expression, the right to privacy, and of course the right to communicate and intellectual property rights. Okay, access to the use of internet and ICT, that's the other one. Okay, which means to say that the access means the possibility for everyone to use the internet and other media. In richer countries, we have basic access to internet is actually almost available to all with faster broadband connections. In fact, there are still countries where access to internet is still a challenge. Same with the Philippine setting. Okay, the next one is infringement to civil liberties or human rights. That is, um, we can ask questions such as what are specific internet issues and internet policy? that have relationship to civil liberties or human rights. No? So actually it will lead us to another set of discussion that talks about the deeper issues of the civil liberties and human rights. Number one issue is freedom of expression and censorship. Okay, because under international human rights, okay, conventions and under international human rights conventions, all people are guaranteed the rights for free expression. However, with the shift from communicating through letter, newspapers, and public meetings to electronic communications and online networking, there is a need to look into how these means modifies the understanding of the freedom of expression and censorship. Okay. In fact, the United States Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the UN in Universal Declaration of Human Rights, okay, provides that everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. Likewise, the right to freedom of opinion and expression. However, okay, however, there are practices that violate these provisions in the use of internet. For some examples are number one, um, individual rights are given up in order to have access to electronic networks. Okay, such as Microsoft Networks or MSNs. There is this kind of contract that provide protection of individuals like the upload or otherwise make available files that certain images or photographs or other materials protected by IPI or IP international property laws that to include but not limiting to copyright or trademark laws. Okay, unless you own or control the rights or have received all necessary consents to do the same. However, Microsoft reserves the rights in its sole discretion. So to the to actually that is to terminate access of any or all MSN sites or services. Okay? And another issue is about privacy and security, which to say another example the I of freedom of expression and censorship. Censorship actually restricts the transmission of information by blocking it, okay, or by filtering the information. Blocking is actually preventing access to the whole areas of internet based upon the blacklist of certain internet address, location, or email addresses, while filtering is shifting, okay, these pockets of data or messages as they move across computer networks and eliminating these considered undesirable materials. Okay, the selection of the sites that are blocked or filtered has been considered as an issue. Warning: when you are surfing the web, you may think you are anonymous, but there are various ways that information about you or your activities can be collected without your consent. Okay, because you are registered. Okay, defamation action. Another example of issue under freedom of expression and censorship is defamation actions may be used to silence critics. Then this action actually deters the freedom of expression. Okay, another issue or the second issue is about privacy and security. Privacy policies are an issue. Most commercial sites have a privacy policy, in fact. When someone uses a site and clicks I agree button, it is as if you have turned over private information to any authority that may access it, right? So there are several types of privacy as shown by these examples. Number one, for most, we can actually associate privacy as personal privacy. That is the right of individual not to have their home, private life, or personal life interfered with. Okay, privacy of communication, that is to refer to the protection from interference with communication over the phone or internet. Respect for privacy of communications is actually an essential prerequisite for the maintenance of human relationship via technological communications media. Okay, and the number three is information privacy is related to the use of computers and communication system, okay, which are able to hold and the process information about large numbers of people at a high speed. And that is important to ensure that information will only be used for purposes for which it was gathered and will not be disclosed to others, okay, without consent of the individuals. Okay, next issue is about surveillance and data retention. The use of electronic communications has actually enhanced the development of indirect surveillance. In the indirect surveillance, there is no direct contact between the agent, okay, and the subject of the surveillance, but evidences of activities can be traced. Okay, the new and powerful form of indirect surveillance is what we called data valence. And the data valence is the use of personal information to monitor a person's activities, while data retention, okay, is the storage and the use of information and communication system. I mean, from communication systems. Okay, so meaning to say there is very little that can be done to prevent surveillance. Okay, what can be done is to change the methods of working to make surveillance difficult. That is called counter surveillance, or we call it as information security, if it refers to computers and electronic communication. So see, those are actually positive. I mean, this positive words or concepts, but sometimes there from that point of view, it will create an issue or leak. Okay, so last issue this time, issue number 4. This is all about e-pollutants from e-waste. All right, so in today's era, large amount of e-waste is generated by ICT. That is a fact. These are in particular the terminal equipments used for computing, such as the personal computers or laptops or netbooks. Okay, we also have in the terms of broadcasting, we have television and radio sets. In telephones, we have fixed and mobile phones and other peripherals such as the fax machines, and printers and scanners. So there is this kind of large amount of e-waste generated by ICT. So the accumulated e-waste is due to rapid turnover of equipment due to rapid improvement of software, while material wastes can be destroyed by crashing, toxic material brought about by the different equipment that requires utmost management. Sorry, the quantities of e-waste are increasing in both developed and developing countries. That's true. And a very dismissal state is that there is a significant amount of electronic wastes that has been shifted from industrial countries, okay, to developing countries. All right. So what should we do then? Remedies about standardization and regulatory measures, that is to increase the life cycle of equipment before they become obsolete, can also be done. Okay, efficient extraction of toxic components and requiring this recycling by both consumers and equipment vendors are selling must be required. In fact, there are instances that you are going to resell the material or the object or the ICT tools or the ICT equipment that you have at home. If not controlled, then e-waste will tremendously affect climate change actually. The damage to human lives, and of course, overload the capacity of the earth in carrying solid wastes. And in fact, if it is just an e-waste, it creates a larger amount in the consumption of the people nowadays. And this is very, very dangerous. So what is then this implication to teaching and learning? How do these policies, okay, or the guidelines, the projects and issues relate to the teaching and learning? Okay, there are great implications of this lesson, no? That is for both teachers and students. And for teachers and teaching, number one is to guide, no, that serves as the guide teacher on what they should teach that relate to ICT and how to teach it. Since ICT development comes so rapidly and so fast, teachers might be overwhelmed by its rapid speed. Temperance is a need, is a key. Temperance in its use is a caution that should be looked at. Okay. Second would be technology should never replace any human teacher. This is an emphasis. The tools are support instructional materials for the teachers which are available for use. The teacher should learn how to appropriately use them, and the human touch of the teacher is still a vital component in teaching. And that teachers should always be reminded that there are always limitations in the use of the different gadgets and tools. Third, sorry. Third, there must be rules and regulations that govern the use of technology. There must be caution, which should be observed to protect individual privacy. As teachers or as future teachers, you will be aware that the use of technology may jeopardize your privacy and security. And number four, all the issues shall be part of the teaching content. And as teachers, you will be encouraged to use technology in teaching. How about for learners and learning? The learners of the 20th century actually are even more advanced than some of the teachers, to be honest. However, learners still need guidance on how to use, to regulate the technology use, to be specific. So, as there are positive and negative effects of technology use, learners should know the difference. Learners should not only know the benefits of technology use, but they should also know how they can be protected from the hazards, the danger that technology brings to their lives. And that learners should take advantage of the potential of learning support they can derive from, such as the development of higher order thinking skills or the HOTS, and the development of learning communities through collaboration. We have enhancement of skills to manage the vast resources, as 21st century learners, and many more. Okay, and for both teachers and learners, what can we do? What shall we do? Um, we should be very mindful of the e-waste that are being thrown away to the land and to the atmosphere. Right? Be very mindful. Thus, there must be safety in the use of technology that shall be presented in the next recorded video. All right. So I will lead you for an exploration. Visit the site, the dict.gov.ph, and explore the site and be familiar with the mandate, powers and functions, visions and missions, citizens charter, the RA 10844, attached agencies, and DICT services. Okay, this will help you to know more about the agendas and the roadmaps of the DICT in the field of education. And from time to time, they are giving updates in relation to the different implementation of the DICT or the use of ICT in the education sector, in health sector, and in other sectors in the Philippine government. So for the website, this is how it looks like. Just visit the dict.gov.ph. You have there their mandate, their powers and functions, mission and vision, Citizens Charter, the Republic Act number 10844, the attached agencies and the officials. Since that this is an updated, or from time to time the DICT website is updated, meaning there is this upgrade of the DICT website. So the officials are actually updated. I mean, the list of officials are actually updated. And so this is for the website. And if you wanted to look for more details and seminar workshops under or powered by or supported by the DICT, or the Department of Information and Communication Technology, go to their Facebook page and visit the ICT Technology. Now, the DICT, or the Department of Information and Communication Technology, DICT, uh, gov.ph, or is a government organization that has its subchapters, DICT. For example, DICT Region 1, Region 2, Region 3, until Region 11, if I'm not mistaken. Caraga region has a different set of region and other um, areas in the Philippines which the DICT is already structured and well established. And in fact, there are internet connectivity deployed already, or as a project of the DICT already. So for this month, for the last month, the March month is a National Women's Month, and so in connection with the celebration of the Women's Month, empowering women in all forms, in all course, they are offering seminar workshops as well, integrating the ICT tools and the cybersecurity under the DICT programs. So for more information about these DICT, you may visit the DICT technologies. And in fact, what is good about their seminar workshops, when you could be able to accomplish all the seminar workshops that they are giving, they'll be giving you e-certificates, and that could be a very advantage to your part as well, that you have this kind of certificate powered by the DICT. Okay, there are courses offered by the ICT along with the TESDA. And so you can actually look into the details of these things, of all the programs powered by DICT and other, or with partnership of with different government agencies as well, to their website and the Facebook page. Okay, so I'm encouraging everybody to explore into the DICT programs, or the Department of Information and Communications Technology. All right, so let's move on to the safety issues on the use of ICT, including e-safety rules. Okay, so since we already know that there is this large amount that produce, or that has an e-waste in the Philippines, or even in around the world as a whole, there must be we should have, or we should know the safety issues on the use of ICT, including the e-safety rules, because using technology nowadays is not risks by itself, but how it is used will be very vulnerable to risks. In fact, when improperly used, it will pose danger to the users, to you, to your families in your barangay, and even among your siblings. And what are the safety issues that are needed to be addressed by safety policy and guidelines? So we are going to know all of those things. And as future teachers, you are going to know all of those things as well. There are actually some risks in the use of ICT and e-networking, because as we all know, technology nowadays is a phenomenon that seems to be uncontrollable, right? Despite the so many benefits of teaching and learning, there are also negative effects or influence on the learners. And in fact, as future teachers, you have to be aware of how to safeguard learners in the school communities, where they can spend most of their waking hours, and also in their homes or facilities that provide opportunities to use digital technologies like internet cafes. Okay, safeguarding and protecting should be the primordial role of parents. teachers, and schools, right? And um, this one, there must be primordial role siya of parents and teachers in schools. And there are also many risks that would have to be aware in the use of the digital technologies. Number one, exposure to inappropriate content, including online pornography, extremism, or we call it as exposure to violence associated with racist language. Okay, and the second one could be is lifestyle websites like self-harms and suicide sites and hate sites. No. Three, cyberbullying in all forms, such as receiving sexual implicit images or messages. Bullying in all forms. Next would be privacy issues, including disclosure of personal information, health and well-being, meaning to say the amount of time spent online, internet gaming, and many more. Okay, for some people, they wanted to limit the use of Facebook, so you could actually deactivate your account from time to time, or you are going to only choose hours when you are going to use the different social media accounts such as Facebook. Nana sa inyong setting, you go to your setting, um, that is only allowable at this number of hours, this um time. Naana siya sa inyong setting, naa sa Facebook setting. Naa po niya siya sa setting sa phone. Anyways, magdepende po siya sa inyong phone. Okay? So that is actually lang to minimize the use of cell phones, or even spending a lot of time online, or even internet gaming and using the internet. Okay, next is prolonged exposure to online technologies at an early stage. Graders are very exposed. Tablets are given already to graders, to grade 3, to grade 1. Okay, which actually has a very good implication or a benefits in the use of these ICT tools to these youngster, but it must be under the supervision of the mother, it or the parents, or an adult or an elder. It shouldn't be that um it shouldn't be that kids or children are left behind and then the parents are working the household chores. It shouldn't be that way. Okay, next is addiction to gambling and gaming. This is very timely. There are a lot of gambling activities in the over the internet, and gaming activities over the internet. And take note, it's addiction. Meaning to say this there is this constant and repetition of gambling, or doing gamble or gambling, no, and gaming. Okay. Next is theft and fraud from activities such as phishing. This is very famous. So from time to time, do not click a link or a website which you think very suspicious. Meaning to say you are very curious of what is this kind of link, because in some cases there are links. Everybody, there are links that will direct a person who is in control to uh, give the personal data or personal information such as accounts, or I mean passwords and usernames of a certain account. So if you receive links or emails that you think are very suspicious, report it to Google. There would be there would be a center for the Google. I just forgot the name, or the mail Gmail na ilang gigamit, na we can actually send them, we can actually report to them that there is phishing happen, or there is this kind of suspicious account interfering in your account. So pwede na ninyong ma-report. And of course, we have viruses, trojans, spywares, and any other malware programs. And the last one is social pressure that is to maintain online networks. Okay, so all of these things are actually at risks We are all at risks, and we are all subject in the use of ICT and e-networking. It's just that these are the negative one. I mean, these are we our life is at risks, our health, our physical, emotional, and psychological well-being is being tested if we are going to expose and overuse of ICT and e-networking sites. So might as well what we are going to do is to at least give some time, or we call it as um, Unsa na? We call it as a breather in the use of ICT tools. If you think in a day you are so exhausted, so sometimes you have to turn off your cell phones or your laptops and then try to inhale and exhale around your house, go around in your house, outside your house, go to an area or places that you think it will reconnect to you with nature. So at least in a day you will not be exhausted mentally and physically exhausted because you of too much exposure to the different gadgets that you are. And of course it will create a mental instability if you receive different messages and comments coming from different social networks or social media accounts. So another thing that we are going to talk about is are the minor issues or misuse of ICT. Number one, in schools, some minor misuse made by learners are actually the following. Number one, yun is plagiarism and copyright infringement. Um, for example, copying information into assignment and failing to acknowledge the source. Okay, this is very, very, very rampant. And second is downloading materials that relevant to their studies. Third is misconduct associated with subject logins, such as using someone else's password, which shouldn't be done. Okay, ayaw gitaw na ninyo buhata because it's a no-no, and leaving a mobile phone turned on during class period, even in an online setup. Okay, of course, the last one is unauthorized taking of pictures or images while mobile phone's camera or still pictures are or moving pictures. No, and of course, these five minor misuse of ICT are just few of the misuse of ICT. Okay, number one, another one is how are we going to build an e-safety or electronic safety. So with all of the mentioned earlier about minor misuse of ICT, the question now is how do we confront all of those so as to protect our future generation. Okay, so there must be an e-safety that will take care not only of internet technologies but also for electronic communications via mobile phones, game consoles, and wireless technology, and that it actually highlights the need to educate you, the children, and the young, even us, about the benefits, the risks, and responsibilities of using information technology. And here are the following. Number one, e-safety helps safeguard children and young people in the digital worlds, in a digital communication. And of course, e-safety um, emphasizes learning to understand and new technologies in a positive way. E-safety educates children about the risks as well as the benefits so we can feel confident online. Actually, that is actually correct. And of course, e-safety, no, um, okay. E-safety supports young learners and adults to develop safer online behaviors in both in and out of the school. So, what do we need to do is actually to safeguard children and young people in a digital world. So, another one is to emphasize learning to understand and new knowledge in a positive way. And of course, educates children about the benefits and risks online. okay, and supports young learners and adults to develop safer online behaviors in and out of the school. Another one that we are going to talk, or I will be talking to you, is about network management. So in network management, there must be a person who is responsible in managing or in overseeing a network, or building a network or relationship um, from one person, meaning who has this kind of gadget, to another, and it could be a gadget to a person and a person to a gadget. So number one is about safety in the use of networks in schools. Always remember that when you wanted to build network management, there must be safety in the use of networks in schools. How? Number one, make clear that no one should be lagged on as another user. Require all users to always log off when they have finished working. And of course, maintain equipment to ensure health and safety. In what way? Clean the hardwares, clean the softwares. Okay? Okay, this one. Clean the softwares. Okay, next is to provide the students with access to content and resources through guided e-learning. Okay, in your phones, if you have your siblings with you, you can actually go to the settings, and there is this part in the settings that you can actually should I say, you can actually go to the digital well-being or parental controls, and from that side, or from that control, there is limited sites that the children can actually visit. No, limited, yeah, and there are restricted sites that the children can actually visit, or the youth can actually visit. So you can actually set that up in your setting of tabs or phones or laptops. Okay, so another one is you are going to secure wireless connection to appropriate standards suitable for educational use. Install all computer equipment professionally, and meet health and safety standards, and review the school ICT system regularly with regards to health and safety and security. And of course, this next one is password policy. Okay, only authorized users will have individual passwords. That's clear. Users are not permitted to disclose their passwords unless they got permission from the information from the owner or from the management. So the equipment that keeps the personal information should be and shall be locked when unattended to prevent unauthorized access. Computers in schools, okay, computers at home should be set to a time out if they become unused or a certain period of time. Okay, another way of managing a network is about using personal mobile phone and mobile devices. What about this one? All mobile phones shall be kept away in a box away from the children. That's very clear. Or learners. And access is only allowed at break time or at the end of classes, or when needed during the class period. But since our nature in the new academic normal is to embrace the use of ICT again, I would encourage that there must be a limitation in the exposure of the ICT tools, and that how you can do that, you can go to the setting, or you can personally train or have a discipline in um, using your gadgets or using the internet. Okay. The next one is about managing the cameras. Taking pictures are only from parents or caregivers, and not from any other family member or friend while the child attend the class. Any picture taken or of children that shall be on camera solely for the purpose, not for any memes or any form of cyberbullying. Okay, that's very clear. Okay, because at times, um, the owner of the picture sometimes get shocked when they can see their picture used by somebody, used by somebody without any permission, and it makes them funny. Okay, so it's not good actually. All right. So how can we eradicate that and the use of camera? Make sure that you are taking pictures for a purpose, and do not upload it if you think it's not purposeful. If you upload it because you have the intention to show the picture that you've got or you took from a scenery, from an event or important occasion in your life. But of those that are not, but of those pictures which you think you have a purpose of establishing a funny comment or a funny or making fun of pictures of somebody, is not a good way of managing a network. Okay. Next is about setting up an educational technology room. So when you are in your respective classrooms as future educators, you will be having this kind of setup, meaning you will be providing tables, anti-glare screen filters, adjustable chairs. There must be foot support of the what do I call this? The computers, the PC, personal computers. There must be proper lighting. Okay, there must be workstations. There must be plan at the computer so that there are frequent breaks. Okay, it is very um, important, and of course, more specifically, the safety rules that can reduce the risks of accidents in the working stations should also be included in the different programs. So let's know all of those things. Number one is no trailing wires across or around the room. Okay, electric sockets should not be overloaded. Three is okay. I mean, two sockets are okay, but more than that, it's actually dangerous. Electrical equipment should be safety tested at least once a year. So every time in your home, and in your different or in your barang, I mean in your house, kindly asks your parents or even kamo to check your electrical equipments once a year. Okay, so there should be adequate space around the desks for people to move. Bags and obstacles should not be placed near the machines. Foods and drinks should not be placed near the machines because there will be tendencies that it will spill, rather it will spill, and so it might create further damage to your machines or to your PCs or gadgets. But if you wanted to eat while working, to drink coffee, a cup of coffee while working, then make sure you're responsible in placing, okay, placing your cup of coffee, your um juices or your water around or near the machines that you are using. Another thing is heating and ventilation should be suitable for the working environment. So remember that we are dealing with machines or gadgets. Sometimes it will get overloaded. I mean to say it took you 8 hours in a day to use the gadget or to use your PCs. So the tendency is your gadgets and pieces or the machines get heated. So ang tendency ana is manginit na siya unya. There must be ventilation, proper ventilation. For some PCs, there is this laptop electric fans that is provided. If not, you may use electric fans, wall fans, basta the area must be conducive to the use of the machines. Okay. Next is the use of fire extinguisher. It must be available all the time because we're dealing with machines. Okay, in a classroom, for example, of 10 machines, there must be fire extinguisher, and fire exits. Okay. And then next thing that we are going to consider or we are going to discuss is about your brush up or brush up exercises. That is just to visit no, the official website of the Department of Information and Communication Technology or the dict.gov.ph, and then watch the lecture of the DICT about cyberbullying and cybercrime, and create a matrix showing all cyber crimes and its sanctions. Um, if dili gani tanan nga cybercrimes in yung mention, at least we could produce five cybercrimes and its sanctions. At least five cybercrimes and its sanctions. You may use a separate sheet of paper for your answer. And then afterwards, kindly reflect on the following questions. Number one, among the cybercrimes indicated above, like the five or every or all cybercrimes, which of them you think you want to know more about? Okay, number two, what will you do when you see cyberbullying? Number three, to whom you should contact when being bullied? And number four, what will you do when you see cyberbullying? Okay, so that's it for your brush up exercises. For your performance or sharpen up activity, it will be mixed with the other lessons after this recorded video, because there will be another set of recorded video, and I will just get five items from these recorded video and another five items from the foregoing recorded video. All right, so that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching this recorded video. I hope you learned something out from this one. And wherever you are, whoever you are with, amping kanuna everybody. Goodbye and see you to the next recorded video.